Thanks, Katie. Let me take a minute to introduce myself, and then we'll get started with the slideshow presentation. And as Katie mentioned, after that, we'll have a student panel. We'll have some administrators on the call and try to wrap up around 10 o'clock. So I mentioned before, but in case somebody just joined, my name is Melody O'Neill. I'm the Associate Admission Director at Landmark, and this is my 26th year here. So I've been here a long time, since 95. I worked at the high school campus for a number of years as a teacher, as an academic advisor, and I've been in the admission office now for quite some time. So that's my professional hat. And then my personal hat is that I have a couple dyslexic kids myself. My daughter attended a number of summer programs here, and my son did a couple summer programs as well. And now he's a current student at the middle school campus. So I'm also involved with Landmark from a personal parental standpoint as well. So, and when you do get to meet with some of our administrators later on, you'll probably hear some similar stories. There's a lot of family involvement and, people that have been here many years for both professional and personal reasons. And it makes Landmark a really special place because of that. So if you can just bear with me for a minute, what I'm going to do is get the presentation up and running. So I just need a minute to do that. Let's see.
So Melody's presentation should take up the entirety of your screen. If it doesn't look full to you, if you scroll to the center of the screen, you're going to see a little push pin icon where you can pin to screen. If you're having any difficulties, let us know in the chat and we can help you troubleshoot, but hopefully you see it nice and large. It looks good from my end, Melody.
Great, perfect, thank you. So the first thing we're going to start to talk about this morning is who we are as a school in terms of our students, our student profile. And the first few things I want to mention about our kids is that they are really bright students. They have a lot of potential cognitively. I'll talk more about that in a minute. They're well-adjusted, curious, and eager to learn. And our kids are really highly motivated, resilient, and capable. We are always kind of blown away and extremely impressed by the fact that despite possible, school struggles in the past, having not met with academic success at previous public or private school placements, our kids come to us and still have the motivation to want to do well. They've kind of plugged along as best they can, and they're really grateful and open to being in an environment where the teachers really get them, get what they need to be successful, and they really are positive about their time with us. So those are a few things in terms of their character traits and levels of motivation that the students bring with them when they come to Landmark. In terms of the more like diagnostic piece of it, we specifically work with students who fall under the umbrella of what we call a language-based learning disability. So this umbrella, the way we look at it here at Landmark is that our students have some specific struggles in the areas of reading and writing, and possibly with the executive function piece and or working memory processing speed. So that's those are the specific areas of needs for our students. When we talk about dyslexia, that's about 70% or so of our high school population that have a specific phonologically based reading disability where they struggle with word attack skills for decoding and encoding and reading fluency. Some of our students have a disorder of written expression where they have all of these great ideas, but their ability to plan and organize and get those ideas out on paper for the writing process is a real struggle for them. We have some students at Landmark that struggle with language production. So when we talk about receptive expressive language, I do want to just clarify here that we need for our students to have intact receptive language in terms of the comprehension of information coming in. They need to have average to above verbal comprehension abilities. But where our students may struggle is with that retrieval and output piece. So that ability to again, come up with specific words, to elaborate with language, and to be able to, again, expand and process and produce some of the higher order language functioning. So that may be a struggle for our students. With the executive function, that's pretty much all of our kids to some degree. When we talk about EF, we're talking about the task initiation, planning, organizing, strategies for research writing skills, strategies for test taking, knowing how to take good notes, things like that. And so that we teach a lot of skills to support the executive function across curriculum at Landmark. And then that working memory and/or processing speed, I'm going to talk about that in the next slide a little more specifically when I talk about the cognitive ability. But I just want to mention before we move on to the next slide that these different labels or diagnoses under this language-based umbrella, this really encompasses our kids. It is a very narrow piece of the pie when you think about learning disabilities in general. This is, the profile of student that we're expert at supporting well. We are not really equipped to support students that have more complex learning needs. For example, if they struggle more with that receptive comprehension, as I mentioned, if a student needs more direct support with social pragmatic skills, or if they maybe have a diagnosis on the spectrum, what we refer to as ASD, we really aren't equipped to support those students well here at Landmark. Same thing when it comes to any kind of emotional behavioral primary diagnosis or need. We're not a therapeutic program, so we really can't support kids if their primary issue is more in that realm of emotional or behavioral. We certainly have some students that may have a secondary diagnosis of some mild, anxiety or depression due to their learning challenges, but it really needs to be a result of the learning challenges and not a primary need. So in terms of the cognitive ability, again, I mentioned at the very beginning, our students are very bright. And so one of the required pieces of information that we need when you apply to Landmark is what we call a neuropsych eval, or it could be public school psychoeducational testing. And part of that testing includes the WISC, which is the Wessler Intelligence Scale for Children. Or if a student is 16 or older, it would be the WACE, which is just the adult version of that test. And so for our students, we are looking to see areas of strength with the verbal comprehension, and especially with the fluid reasoning and the visual spatial integration. Those are areas of cognition where when you take language away, can the student reason and problem solve? Do they have that big picture thinking ability? And that is really important for us to know that we're going to support a student well with the way we teach here. We're very visually based. It's very hands-on. We need for students to be able to benefit from the types of visual templates and organizers and hands-on instruction that we use at Landmark. So we need to see again, that reasoning and visual spatial is the main area of strength in order for the students to access the curriculum here. Where we often see a discrepancy within the WISC testing is with that working memory and/or processing speed. So if a student's struggling to hold on to a lot of information at once that they then have to do something with, that may be a struggle for a student. And how quickly, motorically, they can output with the processing speed and the visual scanning, that can also be a weakness for our students as well. Please know, I want to take a minute to talk about the application. Please know that we work on a rolling basis. There is no application deadline, whether you're applying for our summer program, whether you're applying for the academic year, or if you're applying for both. It's one application. You'll see check boxes on the front of the application to indicate which program. There is also a whole checklist of all the information that we do need to receive. Again, it's the testing within 3 years of date of application, this cognitive piece, also measure of academic achievement testing, and a measure of psychosocial adjustment. We have a number of other pieces that we would need as well, like teacher references and school reports and copies of IEPs or 504 if there is one. Again, our office keeps in touch with you. We let you know what we have. We let you know what we're waiting for. And once it's complete, we let you know that it is complete and we have everything. So this is a busy time for us. A lot of applications are coming in. We highly encourage you to get us the information as quickly as possible at this time of year. That would be great. Okay, so let's start to talk about now what's unique about our program, what makes for a good language-based program, what the day-to-day looks like at our high school. I want to mention that we have a high school campus of around 275 students. Typically about 100 or so are living here in residence, and then the rest are commuting as day students. This year, because of the pandemic, our boarding program was on pause, but we will be resuming. We're very excited about having all of our residents return to us for the 21-22 school year, and everything is going to be set up and ready for them to return. So that's exciting. So let's start to talk about one of the most important pieces, I think, of our program and who we are and what we do is this daily one-to-one tutorial that Landmark offers to all students who require any level of literacy and language remediation. So the goal of this one-to-one, it meets for 50 minutes every day, Monday through Friday, just like all the other small group classes for history and math and science. One of the daily classes is this one-to-one tutorial. And we're using a completely individualized curriculum designed from a diagnostic of goals where we're looking at areas of decoding and encoding and fluency and reading comprehension and writing skills and study skills and oral expression skills. Whatever that student needs specifically, that's what we target in this one-to-one tutorial. We do have typically 80 or 90 of our students at the high school that come to us with real significant gaps in that basic word attack phonological awareness piece. And so they are given a very specific early literacy tutorial that utilizes a lot of the Linda Mood Bell LIPS program, which is the phonemic sequencing program. We are also building and bringing in elements of seeing stars and some V&V, which is visualizing and verbalizing, and some read naturally and great leaps for fluency and elements of Wilson. So we don't want to have just one tool in the toolbox. We don't believe that one program works best for everybody. We want to make it customized and figure out what tools and materials and research phonetic based approach is going to work best for each student. So please know that we take a very prescriptive and diagnostic approach towards that, but we do use a lot of the LIPS program for the students who need to go back to that basic sound symbol correspondence to build phonological awareness. So that's our tutorial, and it's a crucial element of our program and makes Landmark very unique that we offer that every day. In terms of the classroom, our average class size is 6 to 8. We do not go beyond 8 students in the class. We are an approved program by the state, and about half of our students are funded here and half are privately placed. So when we're grouping students in classes, we're really looking at the ability level. We get calls all the time in the admission office asking about, is your 10th grade sophomore class full, or is your junior class full? That's not how we admit students to the program. We take students until we're full as a school, until we have our maximum capacity in terms of, all of the tutorial teaching periods being taken. But we're not worried about per grade because we're grouping students, again, based on their ability level, looking at things like the levels of literacy skill, the expressive language ability, the working memory and processing speed. Not to say that we're putting 18 or 19-year-old seniors with our 14-year-old freshmen, but grade up, grade down, we want to make sure that the students are with, 5 or 6 or 7 other kids that are really moving at the same pace as them. We do parallel the mass curriculum frameworks in terms of the content classes that students are taking here at Landmark High School. It's just like any other high school. You know, they're going through biology and chem and US and world history and algebra and geometry. So the content areas are the same as a public high school, but obviously the delivery of instruction is quite different with the small classes and teaching content through study skills and that type of thing. Very visually based. And our students are receiving instruction from the teachers who have a master's in special education or who are currently working towards that degree and that certification. And so about 75% of our faculty are already at that point of having their master's in special ed. And like I said, the others are working toward that through BU WheeLock is the program that the faculty are enrolled in, which is fantastic. In terms of our approach, what makes for a good language-based school and program? What makes for a good language-based school is that the instruction is consistent across curriculum and that the content is taught in class instructionally, like I mentioned before, through a study skills approach. So how is the student effectively previewing relevant vocabulary, for example, in their science class that they will need to know for the upcoming unit? How are they learning, to take good 2-column notes with main ideas and details and organize that information for a possible, test or paper that they need to write, using specific templates and graphic organizers across curriculum to organize thoughts for the writing process. So it's skill-based and it's consistent, and we are teaching content as well, but we want the skills to be consistent because it's the only way for students to internalize these strategies to then implement them more independently so that we can start to remove some of that structure. We do have 3 distinct programs at our high school. I want to take a few minutes to talk about those 3 programs. When you apply to Landmark High School, you're going to be just applying to the high school. We are a college preparatory high school as a whole. All of our students are college bound should they choose to want to do that, and most of them do. So no matter what program a student is placed in, they're all being prepared to go on to post-secondary education. The program placement has more to do with the skill sets that a student would have in place or not have in place when they start with us. And I want folks to know they're tuning in that there can be movement within the programs as the student makes progress and gains skill. They may transition from one program to another. They may have a combination of programming with some classes in one program and some classes in another program. So there's a lot of overlap. We always want to challenge the students in the areas where they excel and move them along, but we also want to meet them where they're struggling with the right amount of support and remediation where they need that. So the first program, which is the largest majority of our students that are placed in the Founders Program, that's our traditional program. And what their daily schedule would look like is that they will have a math, science, social studies, and English language arts every day. They will have the one-to-one tutorial that we talked about every day. And then there's 6th academic class we will determine based on looking at the profile and the testing. Is this a student that needs an additional small group reading fluency class on top of the one-to-one tutorial? Or if they don't need that, should they go into a study skills class or a literature class? So we will make that determination again by looking at the student's profile and the screening that we administer and the testing, independent testing that we have and so forth. I also just want to mention to everybody that's tuning in, especially the students, you will have an elective during the day, something fun that you enjoy doing, and I will get to all of the amazing extracurriculars and fun stuff soon and just try to get through the academic components first. So hang on with we'll get to the fun stuff. The second program that we have at the high school is our Expressive Language program. We usually have around 90 or so of our students involved in this program because these students have been identified as having difficulties with the language processing and production, the word retrieval, the output of language. So as you can see by the list of classes here, it looks very similar to the students in the Founders Program. It's almost identical: math, science, social studies, English language arts, the one-to-one tutorial. The main difference here for these students is that their sixth academic class is a specific class called oral expression, where they are working on these strategies for retrieval, for vocabulary development, for understanding of figurative language and multiple meanings and idioms and things like that. So it's a group language class that is added as their sixth academic in the day. The students that are in Founders or Expressive Language, honestly, they may not even know they're in one program or the other because there's so much overlap. But again, they get that extra language support in the day. The third program that we have at the high school is slightly different. This program typically has between 40 and 50 students full-time and may have another 20 to 30 students taking one or two classes in the prep. The prep program is designed specifically for students who may not have a classic dyslexia diagnosis, or maybe they do have that, but their reading has been remediated to the point where they are now pretty much reading at grade level in terms of their decoding and their reading fluency, and their spelling skills and their writing skills are at a point where they understand basic paragraph structure and are able to put together, you know, a 2 to 3 paragraph essay pretty easily. So this program is designed more for the student who is at that point where the focus is on specifically on the executive function skills, the higher level essay and research writing skills, the higher level reading comprehension strategies. These are the only students at Landmark in this program who don't receive that daily one-to-one tutorial because they do not require the literacy remediation anymore. Again, they're reading at grade level. So they're taking math, science, and social studies. They have a grammar and composition class for their English language arts. And then the other two classes that are in their schedule are literature and study skills. And so the class sizes are slightly bigger in the prep. There might be 10 or 11 students instead of the 6 to 8. And the pace, volume, and complexity increases a bit more because we know that the student is at the point where they can handle more in terms of independent reading and writing demands. So that's our prep program. I do want to mention that anybody who is looking to receive funding and going out, seeking funding from their school district, they cannot be funded to the prep program. It's the only part of our high school that cannot take a student that is receiving funding. So sometimes we'll have students who are pretty far along with their skills and they're working at a pretty high level, but they may be receiving funding. And so just know that we are able to schedule and program within our Founders Program at a high level as well and still give students very challenging classes when needed. So those are the three programs. And as I mentioned before, the importance of supporting executive function and study skills and that consistency across curriculum. So this is really, again, embedded in everything we do across the curriculum. How to take those 2-column notes. What is the 5-step writing process of going from a brainstorm to an outline to a rough draft to edit to final draft? What are those test-taking and note-taking strategies, and how to paraphrase information and so forth. So again, really important that we teach these skills explicitly and consistently across curriculum. Another thing that's unique about our high school program is the role of the academic advisor. Every student at Landmark has somebody who's overseeing their schedule. This advisor works very closely with the one-to-one tutorial teacher to develop that diagnostic of goals. They go in regularly to observe and monitor progress. They write IEPs for any of the funded students in their caseload, and typically they will have a caseload of about 18 students. They do teach a couple periods a day as well, as do our house parents, as does our dean of students and head of high school. And so pretty much everybody that works here is also teaching. But the advisor teaches a couple periods a day, and the rest of the time is spent supervising, monitoring, observing, and being a liaison as well for the students and the parents and guardians. So updates on how the student is doing, that this is the main contact person for families to check in with and get updates. And again, for students, if they're here for the first month of school and they have any questions or concerns regarding a certain class they're in, they can talk to their advisor. The advisor stays with the student during their years at Landmark. So they get to know them very well. It's a nice relationship that's formed. We also have an amazing guidance and transition office involved with our students very early on, as early as 9th grade, with doing interest inventories and talking about areas of strength and passions that students might want to pursue. Once a student reaches their junior year, they will be assigned a specific guidance counselor and start to have one-to-one weekly meetings. It's very personalized support throughout the entire process, from figuring out the size and location of the school a student might want to attend, level of support that might be needed or not needed as they transition out to college, requesting applications, working on college essays, getting letters of recommendation. So we really take the students through that whole process. And 100% of our students that apply get accepted. Typically, there's around a 94% attendance. Sometimes students may choose to do a gap year or go to a trade school or enter the military, but the large majority of our students are attending post-secondary education. And then homework, I want to mention, is a big component of our high school. It's important. It counts as a big chunk of the grade, but I want for everybody to understand, especially the students tuning in, how manageable it is and how we set it up to be a successful and stress-free process for you. Homework is always going to be a direct practice and review of the skills and content that are introduced in class. We are not in the practice of assigning homework, a worksheet, for example, on something that has never been discussed before. That doesn't happen at Landmark. So a teacher, again, the goal for them is they want the students to practice what has been worked on in class to ensure that the student got the concepts, got the skills, they internalized the information, and now they can move on to the next thing. It's typically about 15, 20 minutes per subject, so around an hour and a half a night, I would say, for 9th, 10th grade. As a student becomes an upperclassman for their junior, senior year, the homework load might increase a little bit, maybe a couple hours a night, but it is manageable. Again, we want the students report that they feel successful, they can do it independently, they know what they're doing, but it does count as a third of the grade, and it is important for students to get their homework done. So what I want to do now is to transition to talking about what happens at Landmark after school, life at Landmark for kids who live here, and the level of involvement of our day students who commute. Our school day is from 7:50 to 3:15. And what happens when school gets out at 3:15 is kids get involved with all of the extracurriculars that we have to offer here. And it's really a huge range of opportunities. And again, I'll get into that in just a minute. What I'd like to talk about first is just for the kids who are living here. We work off of something called a level system, and it's part of this residential curriculum that's specifically designed to support effective time management skills, organization, self-advocacy, and healthy decision-making. So what will happen is a new student at Landmark who's living with us will come in at level 1. We go up to level 6 as the highest, and it's kind of like a privilege reward system as a student is meeting basic day-to-day expectations around getting out on time in the morning for breakfast and getting to bed on time at night for lights out and being productive during study hall and getting their homework turned in. So as they're doing those basic day-to-day things, every couple weeks, a student can request to move up to the next level, and then they gain those privileges. So, for example, by level 5, which can be achieved by the Thanksgiving vacation, for a responsible student who is taking care of business. They can have a fridge and TV in their room at level 5. They can have food delivered. They get a later bedtime. They can check themselves out in the morning. They can shut their door during study hall and lie on their bed if they want, whereas at the lower levels, they have to be at their desk with their door open. So again, privileges that are earned as they make their way successfully through our level system. And it really teaches the kids these incredible skills to allow them to go off to post-secondary education and really know how to manage themselves, how to manage their time, how to advocate, how to organize, and how to be successful. I always recommend anybody that's looking at Landmark, if your child is going to have over a 45-minute or hour-long or hour-plus long commute, the boarding option is really incredible to think about because they can be here during the week, not have a long commute every day, have the structure in place, and they can go home every weekend if they want. They could even come in on a Monday morning if they want and do 4 nights here and 3 nights home. But it really supports, the structure for them during the week very well. For day students who are commuting, please know we want you to stay. 95% of our day students stay after school for activities. It's the best way to get to know more kids. We want you to be involved. We don't want you to leave right at 3:15 when school gets out, because then you're only getting to know the students in your classes and you're not going to feel as connected. So, you can stay for activities. You can stay through supper. You really can arrange to be on campus as late as you need to be before you get picked up for the evening. So just know that day students are here and involved and oftentimes doing weekend activities and trips with our boarding students as well. So let's talk about some of the amazing opportunities for electives, for after-school activities, and ways for you to pursue your passions at Landmark. We have an incredible visual arts department here with all kinds of 2D, 3D media art. We have drawing and printmaking and painting and ceramics and photography. These are classes that are options as electives during the school day, and they are also opportunities after school. If a student isn't doing a sport, let's say, or something else, they can be in the art building after school, choosing this as their afternoon activity as well. Same thing for the performing arts. We have an amazing performing arts department with drama and chorus and dance and theater tech and kids making costumes and taking music lessons after school. We have a fall and winter play production that we do every year and a spring musical. So again, options for elective classes during the school day and also opportunities after school for afternoon activities. Our athletic program is wonderful and robust. We compete with over a dozen other private schools in the area. We have JV and varsity level teams. So in the fall after school, we have golf, cross country, soccer, and girls volleyball. In the winter, we have wrestling, basketball, swim team, and indoor track. Also, on Saturdays during the winter months, we go to local mountains for skiing and snowboarding. And in the springtime, we offer tennis, lacrosse, baseball and softball, sailing, and outdoor track and field. So there are a lot of sports options to choose from. We have a working auto shop on campus. So kids are taking auto mechanics, again, either as an elective during the school day or after school as an afternoon activity. We have a woodworking shop on class, and where the kids are doing woodworking and boat building projects either during the day or after school. We also have a Steamworks lab with all kinds of technology and programming classes and 3D printing and animation and filmmaking and a number of options there as well. And in addition to that, after school for other clubs, we have like a D&D club and chess club, and we've had cooking clubs, and we have kids setting up skateboarding ramps or playing ultimate frisbee. We have mountain biking trails. So there's so many wonderful things to be involved with. Also, the community service. Landmark has a very robust community service program. We're doing all kinds of weekend outings. Kids can participate in community service options after school as their afternoon activity. We have service trips that we do out of state and to other countries over the years we've done things. So we highly encourage kids to get involved with community service, and it's a wonderful part of the Landmark community here. So I think I've covered a lot of the school year, and what I want to do now is to take a few minutes to transition into talking about our amazing 4-week summer program that we offer during the month of July. For students entering grades 8 through 12, they would attend our high school summer program. So that's slightly different than the school year, where we have students entering grades 9 through 12. I do want to mention that you can see in the first bullet here that it says day and boarding. So for this summer coming up, 2021, because of COVID, and we are going to be a day program only for this summer. We will certainly have the boarding resume for the following summer of 22. And like I said, we are very excited to have our boarding program underway for the academic year. Part of the reason why we're not having boarding this summer is just to make sure that we are prepared and ready to go for the fall. So with the boarding. So it will be a day program only. There are options to either do 4 classes in the earlier part of the day until lunchtime, and that would be our half-day academic program. The classes are an hour each. Students would have the one-to-one tutorial every day, a language arts class, a math class, and then either a study skills class or an extra reading fluency class. Again, we would decide that based on a student's profile and need. And then there's an afternoon study hall that a student can stay and do after lunchtime if they want to, but they're not required to do that if they're doing the half-day program. If a student is doing an extended day program, that would mean that they're staying for a fun afternoon of activity. And there are 5 different options of activities to choose from. So I want to run through those. There's a marine science option. There is a sea kayaking and paddleboarding option. We have a visual arts option, a digital photography option, and then we have a health and fitness option where students are working out and doing some CrossFit stuff. So they would choose one of those 5 options for the 4 weeks, and that activity happens from 2:30 to 4:30 each day. And so that's an option with us as well for the summer to do the full extended day program. We have usually around 40 to 50 students every summer. We have some students that might be doing okay where they are at their other public or private school during the school year, but could really use a boost over the summer to develop the writing skills and the study skill strategies to bring back with them. And then we also have, every summer, maybe a dozen or so students that are going to be new in the fall and are using the summer program as a way to transition in. To get to know some students ahead of time, to get comfortable with the campus. They would, get to know their academic advisor ahead of time. So there are some real benefits to starting over the summer if a student is going to be new with us in the fall. We still have the model of having the academic advisor over the summer. And again, that one-to-one tutorial, of course, which I mentioned is, really the hallmark of who we are and what we do is a key part of our summer program as well. So I think I've pretty much made it through all the content at this point. I want to maybe turn it over to Katie while I exit out of this. So let's see. There are a number of things I didn't get to, but you'll have time to ask questions of the staff and of the students especially. So thank you. Katie, do you want to start introducing some of our administrators that are here? Great.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. Good morning, Bob Rudo. Would you like to go first?
Thanks, Katie, and thanks, Mel, and welcome, everybody. It's great to have so many people join us this morning, and I'm head of school at Landmark, and I can't tell you too much more about the programs that Mela has given you this amazing overview. What I do wish is yesterday, the group of student advocates who are high school students who travel around and tell their stories about their backgrounds, but about their understanding of dyslexia, of neurodiversity, spoke to the Board of Trustees. And if there was ever a reason that explained why some of us have been at Landmark for so long, it was that presentation. Their stories are heartwarming, beautiful, exciting. They're all going off to colleges with multiple choices, but where they came from didn't have that necessarily in their future, and here they are. So I will tell you my story. I've been with Landmark since we opened our first campus in 1971 with 40 students, and I've been fortunate enough to be head of school for the last 31 years. And there's a reason for that. Landmark is an institution that is so passionately mission driven that any student who crosses our campus, who walks on campus, has a team of people totally invested in that student's life. And we take it on as a medical model. I always explain it that way. It's a diagnostic, prescriptive, educational model where we take a look at a student's learning profile, strengths, challenges, design a program for that student, a prescription for education based on their learning profile, and we can keep moving that prescription as the student grows. So the one-to-one tutorial, the academic advisors, the skills-based classes, all of that are designed to do it. And what one sees here, as you'll hear from the students who come on, is they develop self-confidence, they become self-advocates, they learn their strengths, they learn their challenges, they become cognitive scientists of their own learning where they know who they are, and they can go off into the world and be extraordinarily successful at the next level of education, and then whatever they choose to do in their lives. So I encourage you to ask all your questions today and ongoing. I'm always available, as will anybody on the screen be if you have questions later, and especially ask questions of the students when they come on. They'll be very clear about their answers. So welcome. It's nice to have you here. And I'm always available if you want to be in touch. Thank you. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks for joining, Bob. We appreciate it. Bill Barrett, would you like to say good morning?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time and for being here. As Katie said, my name's Bill Barrett. I'm head of the high school. This is my 6th year as head of the high school, but my 25th year at Landmark School. I should mention too, because it always gives me perspective. It's my wife Christine's 25th year at Landmark School. We have 3 children, and one of our children went to Landmark for 2 years. He is now a freshman college in Connecticut. And I mention that because often, you know, I'm going to give you answers as a Landmark School administrator and teacher, but I think also as a Landmark parent. And forgive me if Katie or Melody mentioned this, but we are just back from our March break. We're having a fully remote week this week as we allow everyone to settle in safely, and then we'll open campus on Monday. And I think one of the things we're really excited about is we had an all-student meeting yesterday, which is always interesting when you have 270 students on a Zoom call, but the kids did a great job. They've gotten quite used to it. But we talked about the fact that we're going to be bringing in after-school sports, after-school activities, performing arts in that sense. So we'll begin that April 5th. So it's exciting for all of us. It's a lot of work, but we look forward to threading in these things into the after-school program. We're very proud of the fact that we've been open. Our campus has been open since August 25th, and that's always been our priority, not to jeopardize that, but this is something we feel now that we can move into as we enter the spring. So it's great to have you here, and I look forward to answering any of your questions.
Thanks. Rob, good morning. Rob Genetelli, our Dean of Students.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rob Genetelli. I'm in my 25th year as the Dean of Students here at the high school campus. Very excited to be able to answer any of your questions. I'm very much looking forward to repopulating our residential program beginning in the fall. We're working pretty hard right now to create that great program to kind of bring it back into the fold. Very excited about the prospects of having students back on campus 24/7. I kind of feel like a border collie without a flock at the moment, given the fact that the campus ends at 3:15 right now, and also very excited about bringing back after-school sports and activities. Repopulate this campus outside the academic day, bring some of that great energy back in. So happy to answer any of the questions.
I should also acknowledge Libby Parker. Would you like to say hi?
Hi, I'm lurking in the background today because I'm in between appointments, but I wanted to say welcome. I recognized a couple of names up on the screen. And it's always good if you've spoken to one person at Landmark to hear the perspectives of others. I hope that you will hear transparency and consistency amongst the folks that you ask questions of, and that should just make you feel even better about considering Landmark for your child. So keep in touch with our office as you move along, and enjoy the remainder of the visit.
Thanks, Libby. Hi, Ariel. Good morning. Do you want to say hello before you take your sip?
I do, yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Ariel Martin Cohen. I'm the Assistant Academic Dean. I'm also the Director of the Summer Program, if you're interested about summer. And I'm happy to speak to any questions about scheduling, electives, MCAS testing, anything. Thanks for being here.
Great. Ariel, I think we'll stick with you for the first question. You ready? A parent was wondering if we try to keep the same tutor with the student during their time at Landmark. Can you explain how we schedule and pair students with the tutorial teacher?
Yes. So the short answer is your student will probably have 4 different tutors if they're here for 4 years. There are some students who end up keeping their tutor for 2 years, but we do try and have some variety in that. The background is you have the same advisor for all the years that you're here, whether it's 3 or 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. And the advisor really gets to know your student from an academic perspective and also just a personality and interests perspective. So each year they try and match your student with a tutor that's going to meet their academic needs and their reading remedial needs, while also kind of appealing to their interests, their style, their personality. So we like to shift the tutor each year so that they get to see a variety of different teaching styles and personalities. But there's certainly been, I've had tutees that I've worked with for 2 years in a row, and it's been wonderful. I've loved it. But that's kind of the max amount of time that we would want someone working together one-on-one, just because your kids' skills are going to grow and develop, their personality is going to shift. They're going to meet other teachers on campus, their coaches, their house parent, staff in their dorms that they're really going to want to work with. And we like being able to have some variety in who they work with in that really integral part of their day. So we're open to your feedback and your kind of like, I really love this teacher, I'd love to see my kid work with them. All of that matters as we schedule each year.
Thanks, Ariel. Parents, guardians, please keep peppering our panelists with questions. This is a really good time to ask more administrative type questions, and in about 10 minutes the students will be joining, and then we'll hear from the student perspective. So please ask away. Here we go. Okay, thanks, Colleen. If a student's struggling getting started with homework or projects, how's that handled, and the level of support we're providing students? Who wants to take that on?
I can talk about it academically, and then Rob, maybe you can talk about it residentially if there's a residential student. So I think the main thing to know is like our teaching principles, the way that we approach the classroom in any instruction is that we want to structure your student for success. So we want to give them a task that's at the right level, with the right complexity, at the right pace, with the right volume, that your kid can navigate with some guidance, but not direct, do this structure. So if a kid's struggling to initiate a project that's at the right level for them, usually the teacher provides one-to-one support. And that could be a quick 30 seconds kneeling down by their desk, kind of rephrasing the question, reading the directions, reminding them of where the references are. It could be a full class conversation about who else is having kind of a struggle right now. What are your strategies? What can you do? Your student can also advocate to their advisor or to their tutor about questions they have in other classes to get another perspective. But the classrooms are really structured for your students to be able to navigate those tasks based on their skill level and executive function profile. As they proceed, so juniors and seniors, we are manufacturing more moments where they are going to struggle to initiate a task, because we do want the complexity to increase and we want the volume to increase so that they're ready to leave us. So you will definitely have, your older students will have more of those moments, but not so many that they get overwhelmed. We try and be thoughtful about the amount of pressure we put on them, because that's not the goal of Landmark. The goal of Landmark is remediation and discovering their strengths and regaining their confidence, not feeling like they're just drowning in homework. And then the residential program has a really wonderful, comprehensive approach to that moment of overwhelm for kids.
So yeah, I'll jump in there. So inside each study hall component of the residential curriculum, there are classroom teachers populating the entire campus. They're the ones that provide coverage. So say your child is struggling in a particular area, and the onus is on them to advocate. That's the first piece. So they've got to say to a teacher who's monitoring study hall, hey, I'm struggling with this. Or frankly, the teacher who's monitoring is going to see the distraction, the procrastination, all of those patterns of behavior that we're pretty hyper-focused on, and step into that conversation with them saying, hey, what are you supposed to be doing? What are you struggling with? Do you need help? So I'm a math teacher and I'm working in Porter, and a student in Lepardo needs math help. They advocate to the teacher. The only teachers in that building happen to be LA and history. That's a simple pack up your stuff, run up to Porter, Mr. and Ms. So-and-so that can help you with your work. But study hall is designed in the evening hours. Staff are floating through, available, watching, monitoring, interactive with your son or daughter, making sure that they are on task, on target, and able to provide that assistance. I think that's sometimes what separates us from other programs, is that our teaching faculty are the ones that provide coverage. So they're well versed in what's going on academically, and they're also well versed in recognizing how the learning challenges, the executive function issues, how they manifest themselves through the residential curriculum and through study hall in particular. So it's a very strong team approach. The system is designed so that no one can fall through a crack without landing in somebody else's area. And so there's a lot of communication, a lot of work. It's really challenging for a student to simply not have access to the support and services that they need.
Thank you, Rob. Ariel, did you want to add something?
I was just going to jump into the foreign languages and honors questions, because it's kind of an outpouring of how we structure and support students. So we don't have an honors set of courses, and we don't offer AP classes. Our students' profiles, that doesn't kind of fit with our approach to instruction. I will tell you, though, that by senior year, kids are in electives that are content driven and match the topics that are presented in some of the AP classes you might see at a mainstream high school. So we have biochemistry of food, we have advanced marine science, we have physics, we have calculus, we have a variety of history classes that cover the American legal system, American government, psychology, and sociology. So we have a lot of courses that are more content driven for students whose remedial skill development has occurred over the time they're here. But you're not going to have honors or AP listed on the transcript. For foreign language, we don't offer Spanish, French, German. We have a 2-year ASL course if students want to pursue a language other than English. But because we're remediating skills within English, we don't have the capacity. We're not addressing additional foreign languages. We have had students that either spoke a foreign language on the way in the door or want to pursue one for their own interest. And they've used some of the online offerings that are available to continue their exposure and their grounding in foreign language. And we're happy to kind of help them navigate that, but that's not in our course catalog. And usually the question that follows up what I just said is, but what about colleges and their expectations for foreign languages? So because of our students' diagnosed learning disability, they all receive paperwork from our guidance office that exempts them from college foreign language requirements. In some cases, they'll end up needing to take a course on foreign cultures to meet the requirement, but they should be exempted from having to take Spanish 101 at college. And we have not found that us not offering that limits their ability to get accepted into a college program or creates any issues for them in that transition. So it's not, you could look at it as a loss of curriculum, but we find that our students are able to engage in a variety of content and still enroll at post-high school options without that being a stumbling block.
Thank you, Ariel. So our students should be joining. Their milk break starts in just a moment. Milk break, again, is the time in their day where they can get a snack and socialize. So it's very kind that the students are sharing it with us this morning. They should be here shortly. So if you have any questions that you want to populate now for the students, they'll start by introducing themselves, giving you an overview of where they're from and how long they've been a part of Landmark community. But please, they'll be very candid in talking about their experiences. Oh, we have someone who's raised a hand, I believe.
I'm thinking about some of the things, Katie, that I didn't get to that would be great to ask the students about, like questions about dress code or food on campus, or I'm trying to think what else, just obviously them talking about all the activities they're involved with, which I know we have them do.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe one more good question for Rob before the students come in. This is about how we're supporting students at the start of the year. So if you can speak to orientation, Rob.
Absolutely. So every year at the beginning of the year, we do a pretty comprehensive orientation for all new students, both them being new into the program, so making sure they understand and meet their teachers, their advisors, their house parents, their housemates if they're residents, their classmates if they're day students. And then we do an all-school component where we're really working really hard to integrate both the commuting student population and the residential population. It's critically important for us that your child feel safe, supported, comfortable in the environment. And the best way we know how to do that is to demystify all the things that are going to bring angst and anxiety. How are they going to find their classes? Who are their teachers going to be? What are the expectations going to be? So we spend the first week of school really walking them through each one of those systems, doing lots of repetition to making sure that they know the faces, know the names, know the people that they're going to be associated with and interacting with through the continuum of the year. And then that work continues through the year. New student workshops and ongoing work with them to make sure that they're really feeling safe, supported, and engaged.
Thanks, Rob. All right, we've got some of the students joining the call. Thank you guys for hopping on. Dominic, would you mind saying hello first, introducing yourself, your name, where you're from, how long you've been at Landmark, and what you've been involved with on campus?
Sure, sounds good. Hi, my name is Dominic Polini. This is my 5th year here at Landmark. I'm a senior. I do cross country and track for Landmark, and I do photography and arts at here at the art department.
Did you say where you were from?
Oh, Boston.
Perfect.
Hey, and
Thanks,
Dominic, tell everyone where you're headed to. This is great news.
Sure. So I just committed to college. I'm going to Pratt Institute of Arts in New York.
Yay, Dominic. Good. Awesome. Let's see. I saw Maggie. Maggie, good morning.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I am from Larchmont, New York. And at Landmark, I've been involved in swim teams, the tennis team, the art department as well, such as photography and graphic design. And I have been a resident for the past 3 years, or, not this year, but yeah.
Thanks, Maggie. Nick, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Nick. I'm from North Andover. I, like Dominic, participate in cross country and track, but I also I'm a part of the robotics team and a few various clubs throughout the school.
Thanks for being here, Nick. Appreciate it. We've also got Kiara.
Hi, are we just saying, sorry, I missed that, like our grade or name?
Yes, yep, where you're from and then some of the things you've done on campus.
Okay, I'm Kira, I'm a junior. I'm involved in student council, volleyball, community service club, Uncomfortable Conversations, and I'm from Needham, Massachusetts also, and I'm a day student obviously during this time.
Great. Thanks for being here. Who did I miss? Oh, Ethan.
Hi, I'm Ethan. I'm a senior. I've been here since freshman year. I would have been a resident this year as well, so that would have made it 4 years, but now I've just been a resident 3 years. I'm from Acton, Mass, and I've been involved in 1 or 2 different clubs on campus. Everything from wrestling and sailing to performing arts, debate, student council, intercultural club, stock club, uncomfortable conversations, and others. I also came from Carroll, so if anyone's coming from Carroll, I would be more than happy to talk about that transition.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining and giving up your free time between classes. A really great question came in. Do you guys feel or perceive any stigma about being at landmark school versus a more traditional private or public school? Not everyone has to answer, but if you have any thoughts on that question, you're welcome to jump in. Yeah, Ethan.
Well, actually, to be honest, I would say it's not really a stigma among other private schools. Like I would say, especially like in the North Shore, because like, you know, debate will go against like Waring, or wrestling sometimes will be against Governor's Landing or Concord Academy or different things. So among other private schools, it's pretty much there's not real of a stigma. I would say though, for people who have gone from public school to landmark, there is sometimes like, oh, well, you know, we had this in public school. Why is a landmark different? And I think it's just getting used to that, the difference between public school and landmark. But if you're coming from like a place like Carroll or other like or Fay or something like that, there typically isn't much of a stigma. But mostly from people who transition from public school to private. That answers.
Kind of bouncing off what Ethan said. So I am from a public school. I attended public school for 2 years, came to Landmark, repeated my sophomore year, and now I'm a senior. But it was a really big change for me to go from a public school of over 2,000 kids to come to a really small private school in Massachusetts, like 250 miles away from home. You know, it is really different. Like it was public schools are like, you know, very heavily sports involved. Like they don't really like care about student academics. So I would feel like for me, there wasn't really a stigma just because also not a lot of people from New York know about Landmark. And I know this is different for other places in Massachusetts, but I don't know. I think that it was a good change. And every time like my parents or I talk to my friends or, you know, their friends or whoever about Landmark and everything that I've accomplished, like they're always really impressed.
Great. Thanks for sharing, guys. Nick, there was a question specifically about robotics. Can you speak to what that program's like?
Yeah, so we kind of like, robotics is kind of a weird club because we have 2 different things that coincide with each other. We're part of the Invent team, which every 4 years we're able to apply for a $10,000 grant from MIT. And every year 11 different schools get that. And we were able to get that this year for the 3rd time. So it's been like a 12-year progress of that. But in the years that we're not working on that project, we have another robotics team that is based on competition. And the most recent one that we've been working on is an autonomous sailboat that is able to complete different objectives on the ocean. And so it's a competition, but it's not like battle robotics. It's more of like a competition to complete objectives.
That was an excellent overview. Thank you, Nick. What other questions do the families on the call have for our students? Let's see if anything jumps out.
Can I ask somebody to go over what Saturday school is all about? Because I didn't bring that up when I went through the presentation, and maybe one of you guys can just mention what that is and how that works.
Sure. So Saturday school is mostly for finishing up hours so that we can graduate or finish school much earlier within the year. It's not really school. It's more learning about different things around our environment. So people might go to museums, might go to walks, just for 4 hours within the days. It's not really school, which is really nice.
I would say the one thing I would add on to that is that like if instead of like if we have any mandatory things like mandatory health days, we would have like one of our Saturday schools is devoted to that so that we don't like miss a normal day, but like all the rest of them are like just fun activities.
Great, guys.
And I just want to throw into, I'm sorry, I just want for folks listening to know that it's once a month, right? So isn't it like 8 for the whole year, right? We do around 8 for the
8 for the year. Yep. This year was different because of everything, but it's typically 8 for the year. Yep.
Great.
All right. Good questions coming in about residential life. So maybe I'll start with Maggie. Anything you want to talk, how would you describe it? You go ahead.
So, yes, I was a resident my sophomore year and last year for half the year. Fortunately, this year I couldn't come back. But I was really hesitant about being a resident at first just because, you know, moving away from home, not being able to see my parents or staying away from my friends. But I think it really was the best thing I could have gotten, and I got the full Landmark experience from it. So like they have a very structured program for you where they have a level system, which basically you start off at level 1 when you get there, and you can move all the way up to level 6. And throughout that, you gain more freedom, but you also have more responsibilities. Like make sure you're out of the dorm at the certain time that you have to be. Make sure you're getting all your homework done, no homework makeups. Make sure that you are also setting a good example for the younger students in your dorm and everything. Not playing your music too loudly, all that kind of like normal stuff. For people, all my friends at home, they're always like, oh my God, boarding school, that's so cool. Like so much fun. But it was like, I would kind of explain it as like, I had a huge sleepover with my friends, like on almost like every night where I would just like go into like my best friend's dorm next door. Or, like me and my roommate would have like movie nights and stuff like that. But I think the best thing that it did was it did give me a lot of structure because I really struggle with time management. So like with my homework assignments, they would make sure that you like for levels 1 and 2, if you want to be able to like get that right, like get your homework done correctly, you have to sit at your desk. You can't go out like about the dorms during the 2 hours that's chugged off for study hall. You can't sit in your bed doing your homework. And there's also always one teacher on coverage downstairs. Or in every dorm, there's one teacher on coverage, whether it's boys or girls dorm. And you can go to them and try to get help on like an assignment. Or if it's like not even your teacher, but you're struggling in math, you can be like, what math teacher is on coverage? And you can go to them and ask for help.
Great overview. Thank you. Ethan, what do you want to add?
I would just add that like before the week when school starts, boarders have orientation. So we go up to Lake Winnipesaukee, and it's a lot of fun. You get really connected with your dorm. Like, you know, I came in not knowing many people at Landmark, you know, never doing boarding experience. I loved it. You just essentially, it's like kind of like a week of summer camp, really. There's like a lot of games, a lot of different activities. It's a lot of fun. And if you're going to the boys' residence, Porter is the best dorm, and that's a fact. But that's besides the point. And there's a lot of good, healthy dorm rivalry, and it's a lot of fun orientation. So you really get to become like kind of what Maggie was saying, is like you kind of become like a second family. Also, I saw there was a comment about like arts and music. Yeah. I've done performing arts for almost every year except obviously this year. The chorus is great. We do a lot of different events throughout the years and singing and different. We actually perform at Making Waves, which is a lot of fun. We've opened for like Ingrid Michaelson and one of the players of like the bluegrass. The harmonica player for I think bluegrass or something like that. I can't remember the band name, but we've opened for some pretty cool people, and we've gotten to meet them before. It's a lot of fun. And for performing arts wise, I've been a part of shows. I've seen some of the shows here. The sets are always really cool, and it's a lot of fun to do them. like I've had friends that are coming, they're like, oh my, because the theater's not too big and we just pack a lot in there and we do a lot of really creative stuff. But yeah, no, arts and music is a lot of fun.
Awesome. Does anyone want to speak more specifically to visual arts at Landmark?
I can try.
Yeah.
But
And then Dominic will back you up.
Yeah, because I think he's probably taken more art than me. So I took ceramics freshman year, but I know I have a lot of friends who have taken like drawing or painting, and I know it's like, for me at least, it was like a time, like it was an actual elective. Like I know some students feel that it's like pressure, like to get something done, and it was a good break in the day to like do what you want to do. And my teacher at least like let us make kind of whatever we wanted and didn't like try to control us. I don't know, but that was just my experience with ceramics, but I have taken different electives after that.
To add on, for art, you kind of decide what classes you want to take. So there's photography, drawing, foundations, painting. And then through the years, you can go to more advanced art classes. There's advanced photography that you can do. And then the highest level for art classes is portfolio, which I partake in. That class is really designed to help you go to college for art. So it helps you create a portfolio, how to apply it to art colleges, what is an art college going to be like? And that really helps advance your art into a new platform.
Speaking with Ms. Cohen just said, I do take graphic design this year. I'm taking it. It's been like, I think it's one of the funnest art classes I've taken. I take photography for 2 years, and this year I'm taking graphic design. We've done a lot of really cool stuff. Right now we're making movie posters. So we're like taking the concept of one movie and making it like a minimalistic poster and stuff like that, using like a couple key points of the movie. It's pretty cool, and Miss Howard's really fun to like hang out with.
Nick, how's the food at Landmark?
The food is really good. In a normal year, there's like always, I saw something about 3 meals a day. In a normal year where we have the boarding program, there are 3 meals that like day students, and I mean obviously, but day students can also have it. So like after sports, I'd often go for like food and whatnot. But the food's pretty good. It's a nice variation of menus. So, like we have different cuisines. We're not just like all Italian or all like one. We have like a variation, and even within that, it's not always like the same kind of Italian food, not always the same kind of Mexican food. It like really a good variety.
Anything else about food, guys?
I would just say, if anyone's like looking for boarding on weekends, you don't get 3 meals. You wake up at, I think you have to be out of the dorms at 11 or something like that. Then you go to the cafe and you have brunch. So there's like everything from like eggs to waffles to pancakes, whatever's on the menu that day. Then you go to, the morning meeting and stuff like that. And then there's dinner around 5. But you can always like the whole thing about weekends is that you can go to Student Life and make food trips where you can like, that was my favorite part, where you could just like go to Chipotle or go to like Panera or something like that. And yeah, so pretty much it.
I would also add that like during the weekend, like weekday nights, and also during the weekday, you can order food to your dorm if you're a certain level. And there's a lot of pizza, especially in the boys' dorm after games. And then there would be a lot of, because like Pride's is like down the street. You have like in downtown Beverly, there's a bunch of different restaurants. So there's plenty of places to order from. So, because I know some people either want to eat later or, they're just really hungry, they will go out and eat. And it's pretty good. Also, the brunch is definitely better on the weekends than during the school days. And I will stand by
that. Kira, do you want to talk about dress code?
Sure, yeah. I might miss a few pieces, but so typically it's collared shirt and like tucked in with like khakis or like kind of a dressy pants or something. And this year we just added, I think someone moved to add like skirts and dresses to the dress code. I don't know how that's going to look next year, but also I think for like sweatshirts and stuff, you have to have like a collared shirt underneath, or like it has to be like Landmark logo or something. But I think like shoes and hair is fair game. I don't know if I forgot anything. It's been so long.
Nice job. What's the relationship like between day students and residents? Nick, maybe you want to talk about this in terms of like being on campus a lot?
Yeah. So in a normal year, I'm on campus a lot because my carpool drops off at very early 7:10. And then I don't typically leave until 5:45 in a day because of sports and whatnot. So I would say like I would say there is like you definitely see like the interaction. From my perspective, I see the interaction of the boarders being very close, but they're not like exclusive by any means. Like they're also very open and they're very nice. It's like I always like have friends to hang out with like anytime I'm there, because one time carpool didn't pick up until 8:30. That was a very late night at school for me. But like, yeah, I'd say there's definitely always people to hang out with, and definitely friend groups form throughout dorms that you can hang with. But then there are also friend groups that aren't formed by dorms, that are just formed through classrooms or sports and what other means.
All right, students, I'll let you have the final word in terms of, do you feel like there's anything else you want the families on the call to know about Landmark? Any takeaways? And then I'll let you get to class. Sorry,
at Landmark, it's not very cliquey. Like there isn't like, you know, oh, these group of people are with these people and these are with those. It's a little bit more like people interactive, especially like for residents. A lot of people get in, you know, move around the dorms with different friends and whatnot. Like day students sometimes sleep over in the dorms, or you know, boarders will go to day students' house. So there is a lot of interaction, and like, you know, I have friends that, you know, when I've been on the wrestling team, which is the best sport at Landmark, but that's besides the point. And then there's and then I have friends in like theater, and so like we just, you know, it's not very like these types of people with those. We're kind of like a small family.
The only thing I think I would add, which people kind of spoke on, is like I enjoy how there's like a broad range of electives too, like how there's like obviously like engineering, like art, gym, like the typical ones, but then there's also like American Sign Language, and there's just something for everybody. And I think like that's what you can find, something for any of your interests, like music too.
Great, good point.
I guess I would say, as like a final kind of word, is that Landmark actually does prepare you for college, which was one of the main things that my family was worried about when coming to Landmark, because we weren't getting that kind of help at my old public school. I have gone into some really good schools. Currently making a decision because I got into too many that I wasn't expecting to. But it is like I think the best thing was my tutorial teacher who like helped me with my college essays, helped me prepare for my ACTs and SATs. You know, they actually make sure that you're like not, you know, that you have a good range of schools you're applying to, from safeties to ones that you can like you want and can get into, to like reach schools. I think that was like the best thing that came out of it.
Be prepared to be pushed physically with everything, with schoolwork, but also they're here to support you as well. There will always be a branch of security. If you fail, they will always help you to get where you want to be and make sure that you're going in the right place.
Yeah, I would say that like they're definitely that like great balance of they're pushing you, they want you to do your absolute best, and they don't want you just to like ride an easy wave, like they're pushing you. But if you have issues, I've sent emails all hours of the night to teachers, and I typically get a response then, and if not, I get in the morning, or they'll say we'll talk about it in class, or if you want to meet during milk break, we can. Like they push you, but they also provide the support that they're helping you get there too.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. As you can see, the families really appreciate your honesty and openness, and thank you for giving up your milk break time to join us. I'll send a quick email to your teachers. I'm sorry you're a few minutes late to period 3, but I'll let you go now. Thank you, students.
Thank you guys so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate
And the
it.
administrators as well. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you, Ariel, Rob, and everybody that tuned in. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye, guys. I'll turn it back over to Melody, who can wrap it up for
Great.
us.
Well, I hope that, thank you again, first of all, everybody, for joining in this morning. And I hope that you felt like you got, all of your questions answered and that you have a really good sense as to, Landmark School's mission and what we do here and how amazing the kids are. Feel free to keep in touch with our office during the process. We'll try to keep in touch through email in terms of, application materials coming in and what we have and what's still needed. And once it's complete, we let you know. It is a busy time for us, and, we're starting to fill up in certain areas. So the sooner you can get us materials, the better. It does take about a month once we have a completed application to go through our review, follow up with folks, meet as a committee and all of that. If we feel like we're likely to be a good fit once we finish up with that process, then we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch regardless, but we would be in touch then to schedule a virtual appointment if it's for a screening and interview, if it's a fall applicant, and if it's a summer applicant, a summer only, then it's a little bit different. The process, we would just give an acceptance at that point. So again, reach out with any questions. We're here, and we really look forward to receiving your students' information. And please know that we always take the time, if we're ever upon review of information feeling like we're just not the right fit or we don't have the right programming for some reason, we'll talk to you about that. And we always try to make some alternate, program recommendations of other places that may be better equipped to support your child's needs if it's not Landmark. So we will talk with you about that. It won't just be a form email saying no. So, but we hope that we're the right fit for your student. And again, we look forward to getting the information, and thank you again so much.